Thank you so much, Rajiv ji. Jai Hind all. So I'm going to keep this, orientation very short, very crisp, and to the point for the benefit of all of us. It's a Sunday, and I'm sure all of us have taken out this time to spend with our families. So what we will do is we will keep the questions towards the end, so that we have enough time to address the questions to your satisfaction. So let's quickly get started. Now, they who depend on others for their personal security are victims. Now, why I say this is because you take any incident or accident that happens, at every single point, the calamity strikes, and it is those who are unprepared or who feel that there is no need for them to prepare, for mitigating a certain situation or a incident. They are the ones who fall victims, and it's not just for crime, it's for any incident or accident that takes place. It could be even for natural disasters. So having said that, just a small introduction about me. So friends, that's a brief about me. I am Chakradhari Rove. My colleagues call me CR, and I am a professional in the domain of protection and counterterrorism. And I trained in Israel, the best that we have. So this is the reality. Now we have been seeing incidents, a rise in incidents of crime against individuals and communities and certain race, basis on certain race, ethnicities, and religion. Now, this is not just in India, it's not just in US, it is in the past, I would say at least 5, 6 months or even more, it has become a global phenomenon and it's happening everywhere. Okay. Now, one thing that is common to all of these is the word violence or the concept of violence. And I think in the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes of our orientation, I want to spend some time talking about this concept of violence. Why this is important is something that we will understand, as we go through the subject of violence. So, where did violence start? I think violence started from the time man came into existence. When the caveman found his refuge against the wild and against the violent aggression of the wild around him, when he found his refuge within the cave, he locked himself inside the cave. Correct? He went into the cave with his family and he stayed there. But very soon he understood that if he were to survive in that cave, he would need food, he would need water, okay, sustenance. And to get that food and water, he had to step out of that cave. Without stepping out of that cave, there was no possibility for him to survive. And that is when he had to accept that he has to learn violence. If he is not as violent as the wild, which is which is waiting outside the cave to welcome him, he is not going to be able to survive and get out and bring food and water for his family, which is inside the cave. So, what the caveman did was he learned violence. He learned violence to an extent where he could intimidate his adversary, which was the wild at that point of time, which was outside the cave. And then from there on, the violence, he learned, he taught his communities, and then, there was evolution. And then we have our, the grunts that we, look up to, which is the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Even in these scriptures, violence has been a very, very integral part of teaching us lessons out of these books, or these holy books. The Ramayana has significant violence, and so does the Mahabharata. Now, after that age came the religious and the ethnic invasions. Whether you're talking about the Islamic invasions into Asia, or you be talking about, the Mongols invasion, the Genghis Khan and his army towards Asia and towards the Middle East side, or we are talking about the you know the Christian invasions that took place. I'm forgetting the name of that group. So so it was those guys. So in every single religion that we have today, there has been a certain level of violence to, as a lesson, for the good to learn, that they have to learn the art of violence against the bad. Every single religion has that. Even our Guru Granth Sahib, the Sikh gurus, they picked up arms against, the adversaries. So violence has been a very integral part of our evolution. And then we had the British, the colonial invasions. But there was a small difference here. And it's very important for us to understand this difference. The British invasions or the colonial invasions, violence was not at the forefront. They didn't drive their colonialism with violence at the front. What they did was, especially in countries like civilizations like the Indian civilization, they came in as traders. They didn't come with soldiers, guns, and tanks and all that. So the cannons and all that stuff. So they came in as traders. They slowly manipulated our, thought process. They made us feel inferior, and then they sold us their superiority, in whatever form that they did. So violence, though it was there, it was not at the forefront, because now we are talking about a small part of people or small group of people trying to gain their significant control over a mass which is multiple times their size. So they use the mind power, they use psychological warfare. It started back then, and then today we face the violence from the criminals and radicals. However, there is something that happened in between. Now, while if you look at the ancient Indian civilization, when we had the Gurukul system, the Gurukuls were preparing the young, or their pupils, to be able to successfully manage four significant roles, which is basically the Varna system that we had. So the Gurukuls prepared the pupils as a Brahman, somebody who's very knowledgeable with Gyan, with the Vedic Gyan. Second, they prepared the pupils in warfare. That could be the swordsmanship, or the Dhanur Vidya. Then they also prepared them as Shudras, because they had to clean up their own stuff. They had to wash their own clothes and clean their own plates and do the cooking themselves. So that was the hard labor that they trained their pupils in. And last but not the least, they also taught their pupils the Vaishya systems, that is the business. because they were creating a character. And that is the biggest difference or biggest transition that we had from the Gurukul system, which was creating a character, which was more of a character building, to an education system that we have today, which is mere resume building. Now, if you look at the current education system, we are focusing only on two things. One, either we are creating the Shudras, which is the employees, a very, very talented pool of employees, or number two, we are creating a very talented pool of entrepreneurs, which is the Vaishya. The Brahman and the Kshatriya have somewhat disappeared from our education system. And that is the biggest challenge that we face today because of that change in the education system and the disappearance of these two very important roles that we are preparing our young. So, from a character building education system, today we have come to a resume or a paper education system, which focuses so much on certifications. You have certificates. It doesn't matter when you whether you have the skills or not, and that is the reason why today most of the population, the youth population in India, they are unemployable because they do not have the skill to be employed, and that is where we are facing a big challenge. So what we are bringing to everyone, to the world, to Bharat, and to our Indian brothers and sisters across the globe, is we are bringing the Kshatriya element of the education back into our education system. And that is what we are all about. So we are about bringing an education system that educates our people in controlled violence. That word control is very, very important. I'll give you a small example. So when a kid does something wrong, something terribly wrong that agitates us to an extent that we hit the kid. Now, if you notice, we as parents, we would possibly hit the kid only until the kid realizes that he has done a mistake and he apologizes for it. The moment that acceptance, we see that acceptance in the body language and in the language of the spoken language of our kids, we immediately stop the violence. So here the violence is basically controlled violence. The violence is used to teach a certain lesson which is very, very critical for that person. Now, I'm not saying it is right or wrong. That's a whole different debate that we can get into. But this is something that has been a part of our life, and that is what is called the controlled aggression. So we present to you India's first Israeli counter crime education program. Now it is not one program, but it is different programs brought together into one. The first program that we are talking about is TSOC Delta. TSOC is Tango 6 o'clock, which is the name of our company. Delta is the basic level 1 program. Now, what do we do in this basic level 1 program is we train individuals in some very, very basic but very, very important topics. Few of them are like, what is security? A lot of us, we know security. We think we know security, but we do not understand security as a concept, as a subject. What really is security? What are the components that come together and form security? We do not understand these things. So what we do in this particular program is we help people understand what is security. Second, we help people understand what is safety. Now, a lot of us, we don't understand that security and safety are completely two different things. They are not the same. Okay, and you will also notice if you speak to a few of the security professionals around, interestingly, they too don't understand the difference between security and safety, many of them. Okay, so we discuss what is security, what is safety, what is the difference between the two. Then we talk about what is vulnerabilities. Now, what we need to understand is an adversary, whoever that person is, whether he is a criminal or he's a radical or whatever be their motivation. They are successful in their modus operandi because they have identified vulnerabilities within us or our security system. A system or a person who does not have vulnerabilities can never be exploited. But yes, I will also mention this, that there is no system on the planet that does not have vulnerabilities. 100% security is a myth. It does not exist. Not in here in India, not in the US, not in Israel. I mean, we saw 7th of October, correct? So 100% security does not exist. However, it can become almost impossible for an adversary to exploit our vulnerabilities if we identify these vulnerabilities ourselves first, and we work in building together a security architecture that fortifies the vulnerabilities. It's as simple as, like how we send our kids to extra classes, for a certain subject. Now, that subject is a vulnerability for the kid. So, what we do, we fortify that subject for the kid. We send them for extra classes, tuitions, and all that. Correct? So, that's what it's a similar concept that we do in security architecture. So, once you understand vulnerabilities, then we get into threat assessment. Then we identify what are the threats, how to identify a threat, what are the different kinds of threats for a common man like you and me. Correct? Now, it's very, very important for civilians to learn this knowledge of personal security and counter crime education so that we raise above being a civilian and we become an ex civilian, because civilians become easy targets. Ex civilians, like ex servicemen, are very difficult to target. So, our objective here is to create more ex civilians in our society around us. Okay, so this is the program that Rajiv ji was talking about. The audience is must be above the age of 16 due to the content of the program. We've kept 16 as the minimum age, and the duration of this program is 7 hours. So it is split between 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. The next program what we have is TSOC Charlie. This is the next level. Now you've understood the basics. Now we dive into a little more in depth. We understand deeper topics like emotional intelligence, accurate thinking. Now this is not the emotional intelligence and accurate thinking that we get trained in the corporate world. Correct? Though it might sound similar, but this is very, very critical in for oneself to save their lives. So we are talking about emotional intelligence and accurate thinking when you are face to face with a criminal, or in a criminal situation, or in a crime scene. Okay, so this is going to be a little different than that. We're talking about profiling. How to identify, this is something that we learned in close protection, that's VIP security. Now, if you see the VIPs, with those guards around them, the close protection detail. Now they are protecting one person against, let's say, what, 300-400 people, who are in the crowd, or maybe even thousands. Now the question is, what are the perimeters that these people who are around the VIP, what are the perimeters they're going to use to judge somebody who is in the proximity as a threat or not a threat? So that's profiling. Now we will be talking about the basics of profiling that will help a common person, who's a ordinary citizen, understand how they can look at somebody and gauge if that person or that being is a threat to them. Okay, so that's profiling. And a few more subjects we which go really deep, like the security firewalls, like how we have firewalls for our computer systems that protect our network. Similarly, we have firewalls for ourselves, which protect us physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. Very, very important. Now, this training is also 7 hours in duration, split over 2 days. Now, TSOC Delta and TSOC Charlie are both programs that we deliver both online and offline. We also do, in-person programs in India as of now. And the third program, which is the main program, which is TSOC Bravo. So when you do this TSOC Bravo program, you are now a certified ex-civilian. Now, what is in this program that qualifies you or that certifies you as an ex-civilian is because this is a 24-hour physical boot camp. It's not virtual, it's not online. It's a 24-hour boot camp where we talk about physical and mental preparedness. We talk about unarmed combat. We talk about tactical decision making. Okay, and we talk about fight back strategy. When you are in an intimidating situation, how do you design your fight back? Or how do you design your exit strategy? You could be alone, then your strategy will be different. You are with your family, small kids, well, the strategy has to be different. Correct? Why? Because now you're responsible. Now your kids and your family is your VIP. Now you need to start thinking like a VIP protection operative because you are one for your family. Correct? So we touch upon those basics, and not just basics, we go a little bit in depth as well. Okay. Now this is, as I said, it's a 24-hour boot camp. Okay, and has to be done in person. Now we're talking about too much of violence, but how do we equip our young, the kids who are below the age of 16? Now we don't want to teach them violence. I am not in favor of teaching 16-year-old and less violence at that young age. So what we have done is we have identified 9 very, very critical tactical life skills that form or that qualify somebody to become an ex-civilian. And we have taken those 9 life skills and we have boiled them down in very, very simple language and curriculum for our young kids. A couple of them I've already shared: emotional intelligence, accurate thinking, decision making, okay, communication skills. Now, these are very, very basic things that we need to start training our young on. And that is what we call our TLS graduates. We call them guardians. Why? Because in India, these guardians amount to what? Maybe around 500 million plus in population. So these are our guardians of the future. And right now, it is very important for us to train them in being able to at least identify, certain abnormal behavior among people around them so that they can do the right things and not get subdued, by or overpowered by the adversaries. Okay, so this is something that we have formulated for our young minds. Now young minds is standard 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. Below that is not something that we would want to touch as of now, at least. And we have devised this program, which is an 18-hour program that we are talking with a lot of schools and colleges to do. So in case you have connects with schools and colleges here, please help us out, because this is going to be a joint effort. Guys, this is going to be a joint effort. One man or one company cannot boil the ocean. The society has to come together and help us, make our society and nation and the world a better and more safer place for our for our future generations to come. Okay, so this is TLS, and I'll leave you with 3 reasons why you should be looking at these programs. Reason number 1: you do not deserve to be a victim. Not you, not your family, nobody deserves to be a victim. And I don't need to delve more into this, because we all know we don't deserve to be a victim. Number 2 reason why you should be looking at this is that you are your closest. most dependable but untrained first responder at any time. Now, I don't know about the US statistics, but I'm sure they're somewhere close to the Indian ones. In India, we have one policeman for every 600 civilians. So imagine if three of those 600 civilians would need a police intervention, this one guy will have to, choose one. So basically, the criminals are out, the cops or the first responders are outnumbered. One. Secondly, the time taken for a police response to reach a crime scene is close to around 10 minutes. It's an average pan India. Now it takes 30 seconds to get molested. It takes 3 minutes or even less to get kidnapped. It takes less than 60 seconds to get stabbed on the road. It takes maybe even, around the same time, maybe 2 minutes to get mugged at a knife or a gunpoint. And all of this response of the police is only when you call them, because we have still not reached a minority report situation where they would know a crime is going to happen, in advance. Correct? And there is no way how a criminal is going to let you make that call to a 911 or a 112 or a 100 when you are in front of him. So basically, the closest, most dependable help you have is yourself. And this is the reason why you need to train in counter crime tactics and counter crime education. It's the need of the hour. And reason number three, I will not give you. Okay, this is something that I want you all to figure out for yourself, because it is this reason that will push you out of your comfort zone. Comfort zone is equal to a victim zone. Now we can do only so much. Now for you to take that step, to come, to enroll, to register yourself with the program, to go through the program, and not just go through, to grow through the program, you will need a lot of willpower. And that will come from, this third reason that you define for yourself. So having said that, I have reached the end of my, sharing presentation. Now, any questions, feel free.